Welcome, everybody, and it is a very big welcome to Tim Allen, who we are featuring this week. He's one of our new set of arrangers, and we're very excited to have him on ChoirCommunity. I've met Tim a few years ago. We've been in touch quite a lot, haven't we, over emails and messages, just about general arranging and choirs and stuff. So it's wonderful to have you on board.
I'm
And
really excited to be here.
And I hear a little bird tells me that you know a little bit about these interviews because you might have seen one or two.
Oh yeah, I've been watching them avidly. I think they're brilliant.
Well, that's very heartwarming to know that somebody's actually been watching them. So that's great. Well, this is all about you, and can't wait to find out about your influences, what's brought you to where you are now, and what makes you tick chorally and all that stuff. So I like to start with the first memory of music question, and there's a little twinkle in your eye because I think you know this is coming. So looking back to those formative years, do you remember a time when you thought, "What's that?" and then you discovered that it was music? So was there an early influence that you can tell us about?
Yeah, well, it was kind of a bit unusual in a way because growing up, we didn't have a radio in the house, and we didn't have a TV till I was about 8 or 9. So actually, my first memory of music really is creating it. When I was maybe about 5 or 6, my mum and dad bought me literally just the tiniest little keyboard. It was like a Bontempi little thing, I think, with pastel coloured keys, um, which just like as a almost like a throwaway Christmas present. Something which we might have fun with for a few weeks, and then it'd end up, on the scrap heap. But I remember just pressing these little buttons and sound coming out, and that being an amazing thing.
Oh wow! Did it have those preset tunes that these?
No, it was even more basic than that. It was
Right.
literally just it was like I think about an octave and a half keyboard,
Okay.
and you press there were no different sounds on it. It just
No,
had this really
just the ones.
annoying beep.
Hang on, you
But
must have wanted to progress from there. When did you discover that there was more to keyboards than an octave and a half Bontempi?
well, fairly rapidly because I got very kind of excited by that, and my mum and dad could tell that it was something that I was getting a lot of kind of pleasure from. So
Bless
it was
them.
not too long after that that I graduated to a full, 3 octave kind of keyboard with like 6 sounds on it or something like that.
And
Um,
so, but I'm interested in the thing that you didn't have radio until, oh, goodness me, oh, no radio in the house and
hmm,
no telly till you were about 8 or 9.
yeah.
So no Scooby Doo theme tune when you were 5.
Not when I was 5, no. Although there are some of those kind of TV shows from that era that I did pick up when I was kind of 8, 9 ish.
God, God, name us a banging children's TV theme that you loved from an early age.
Oh, what was it called? It was about a little flying aeroplane that went around, and
Oh,
Danger Mouse though was grand. Danger Mouse, I love the Danger Mouse theme. Um, but that one's going to annoy me now. The one with the
okay,
aeroplane.
we'll come back to it later if it comes to you, or if you know it, listener or watcher, write in with the answer. Up
Absolutely.
to me, I'm afraid. It's just showing my age. I'm afraid far too old.
Jimbo the Jet.
Jimbo
There
the
you go. It's
Jet.
come to me.
Right.
Jimbo.
Could be a new arrangement for you. Who knows? Lovely. So I was going to ask you about your family influences, and it sounded like your family influences, they didn't want you to listen to music at all
Well,
until
not
they gave you
exactly.
your succession of keyboards.
Yeah, no, they have been incredible supporters of my kind of musical development, and obviously, as with anybody who's kind of had any kind of musical training, very, very grateful to parents for funding it throughout all those early years. But not just that. Once I kind of got into playing keyboards, after a while, I then got into the very, very niche world of the home organs, um,
Ah,
and which is a weird old place.
yeah.
Believe me, it really is.
But
Um,
bossa nova and
oh yeah,
rumba.
yeah, all that
Yes.
kind of stuff. Yeah, and my little had a Conker Priest and then a Yamaha MC 600. You see, all of this stuff's still in there.
Those are good numbers.
And yeah, I got very into that. And actually, by the age of maybe 12 or 13, and I'm skipping ahead, but by the age of about 12 or 13, I was, well, my folks had bought an estate car so they could fit the organ in the back, and was going out and playing at the clubs.
Fantastic.
So yeah, a very, very weird kind of musical
Okay.
corner, but
That's
one
wonderful. Alongside that, did you get a cassette recorder or well, probably you're too young for those, but
no, cassettes definitely was the way.
and was there any record players, any vinyl in your life? Do you remember the first vinyl that you bought, the first cassette that you
I
listened
never really got into vinyl, although we did have a record player. There were not a lot of records in my mum and dad's record collection, but there were a couple that I remember really kind of standing out.
to? And you're going to
One
tell us
was
about those?
well, my dad was a big fan of well, he was a big fan of the Shadows, but the record that really stands out for me was a bit of a novelty record, a song all about toast, just toast, which was which was just absolutely riveting. Because apart from anything else, it was kind of there were bits of it that were mainly kind of spoken with a kind of beat underneath. So it was kind of not. Really wasn't rap, but it was kind of like a precursor to that kind of thing. But then my mum's favourite record was Carmina Burana.
And toast. That's just
absolutely, yeah.
Two
ends of a spectrum.
I love that. All right.
So and I was absolutely enthralled by Carmina Burana.
Must have terrified you that opening few chords.
Oh, no, I loved it. But I was always into kind of really big dramatic things. So Carmina did that for me.
Hence the sort of multiple keyboards, organs, and the
absolutely, yeah. No, I got
things. There we go.
Very over the top. I got very into musical theatre as well. So playing Phantom of the Opera on kind of the big organ and things like that was heaven for me.
Wonderful. And were you getting similar sort of help and influences from music teachers, maybe your primary or even your secondary school teachers? Was there some influences that you remember that helped you with your musical development?
Yeah, definitely. When I was at primary school, I had a fantastic music teacher called Mrs. Rogers, Jane Rogers, who was very encouraging. She gave me a glockenspiel, and kind of I got very into playing that. And in fact, I think we did a production of the Mikado at junior school, which I played the glockenspiel in. Which early memory definitely, but she was very, very encouraging and kind of encouraged me to do more with musical things. And then at secondary school, I didn't realise at the time just how privileged I was with my secondary school music teacher. I discover later that he's actually quite a well-known choral arranger and accompanist, Michael Neum.
Okay, wow,
and,
yes.
I accompanist and wrote a lot for the Cantamus Girls Choir. And he was my secondary school music teacher. I didn't know just kind of what a figure he was at the time, but he was absolutely marvelous at kind of encouraging that kind of musical side of things. In fact, he was responsible for me getting into singing in the first place.
Okay, well, did he was there a choir that he ran and you sang in it or something, or did he let you arrange?
No, it was a bit weird. There wasn't really much many musical things happening in the secondary school at all. Despite Michael Neum being the music teacher, you kind of expect that there would be a lot of things happening, but I just suspect that it was there weren't a lot of kids that were really kind of into the musical side of things at that point. But he decided in his infinite wisdom, I think it was my last year at secondary school, that he was going to change this. He was going to try and put on some kind of musical production in the school. So he decided to put on a production of the Gilbert and Sullivan piece, Trial by Jury. So to cast it, literally just kind of went around asking people if they would get involved. And I remember he came up to me and said, "Tim, you're musical, you'll be in it, won't you?" And I said, "But I've never sung." He said, "Well, here's a song, have a go at it." Literally just put it in front of me and kind of, just have a go at singing. I just tried to sing a few notes of it. He went, "Yeah, you'll do." And so I went into, first rehearsals for this production, and he'd cast me as, was it a counsel for the plaintiff? And, a couple of kind of reasonable kind of bits of stuff to sing solo in. and got into the first rehearsal and discovered that of all the lead parts that I've got any kind of solo stuff to do, there was me, there was a girl called Abigail who sang in Cantarmus Girls Choir, so was very, very good. And all the rest of the leads were being played by staff. We got kids in the chorus, but
Yes.
so that completely threw me and floored me. I had no idea that was how it was going to work. But got into it, really enjoyed the process of doing it, and that made me kind of excited about choral music. Well, not just that, but also he suggested that I go and be a part of the that summer there was the Nottinghamshire schools music. Well, it wasn't a music hub back then, was it? But it's the equivalent of what would have been the music hub now. We're getting together kids from all over Nottinghamshire to do a production of Carmina Burana. So he kind of suggested I had a go at that, and I did that over the summer between secondary school and going to FE.
When you say you did that, were you part of the chorus, or did you?
Oh yeah, yeah, a very, very, very small part of the chorus.
Joined a big choir and got the feeling of that.
Mm.
That's fabulous. So how did that continue into further education? Did you center on music, or was there something else in your life that was important there? Where did you go after school?
Well, I went to a further education college to do my A-levels, a brilliant place called Clarendon College in Nottingham. And at the time it was run by a woman called Anthea Cater, who just basically decided, you couldn't do it today, but decided that, she was just running a couple of music A-levels within an FE college, but she was going to treat it as though it was a music conservatoire. And you had to audition to get onto the A-level course. It was really kind of intense. It was 40 hours a week to do 2 A-levels, which is unheard of these days. And everybody who was on the music A-level had to be in the choir because she believed it taught musicianship. So yeah, that was a really kind of strong formative experience. Worked with some brilliant musicians during that time. Had Doug Wilkie as my composition tutor, who was absolutely inspirational, and so that really kind of set me on the path to doing music as a career. And then from there went on to a very, very small arts and education based university called Bretton Hall in West Yorkshire, which was very different.
Very okay. In what way was it very? There was a very different there.
Yeah, well,
loaded. So yes, let's tell us.
I went there intending to do a combined degree in music and drama because I was getting particularly into musical theatre at the time. But they closed that course just as I arrived. I won't read anything into that.
It's coming.
Absolutely. And so instead they decided they were kind of slightly changing course with their music course, and it was going to specialize in contemporary and avant-garde music. And so I did 3 years of studying avant-garde, and that was, well, it was mind expanding in that there were lots of things that I perhaps before that wouldn't have considered as music, which I kind of came to discover. You can do a lot of things within music, and it doesn't just have to be things that are created by traditional instruments or voices. It doesn't have to be things that even necessarily sound terribly beautiful. That was very, very different experience.
That's positive. So 3 whole years and only within one genre of music.
Pretty much, yeah. It was very, very niche, very unique, and to be honest, in my first year, I absolutely loved it because I was, discovering all these new things, writing pieces that involve throwing table tennis balls into an open piano and things like that, so really kind of embraced it and really got on with it a lot in that first year. In the second year, kind of thought, surely there's more to music than just this.
Wow.
And by the third year, well, about 6 weeks before the end of the course, I came that close to quitting, just because I just thought there's got to be more to it than this. It just seemed that you were being kind of praised and rewarded the more odd you were, rather than rather than the more kind of musical you were, or the more you'd thought about what you were doing.
And did you continue your more, shall we say, more mainstream musical exploits to the side of this, or was there no spare time to do that?
No, absolutely. There was a lot of music making outside of the course that was, to be honest, a lot of that very rooted in musical theatre. That was very much what I was into at the time. In fact, I had the, in my first year there, I was asked by the head of drama whether I would be the musical director for a production that they were doing on the acting course. So I was running that in my first year. By the time I started my third year on the music course, I was teaching singing on the acting course.
Wow, there we go. So you didn't waste your time, really.
No, no. All the stuff that I got to do whilst I was there that wasn't part of the course was absolutely my kind of musical foundation.
I can echo that, actually. There's quite a few things I did at school and at university which were nothing to do with the course. They're the things that really taught me, sitting, talking to friends and jamming with people, and that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Definitely.
Well, that's great. So let's do a little leap. After that, what I'm interested in is the connection between then and now, and the influences and the little pivots that brought you into choral music and in arranging. So you've talked about musical directing, you've talked about singing, you haven't talked about composition or arrangement yet.
Sure.
Is that the next thing that happened, or is there a journey between those things?
No, I started writing when I was probably about 12 or 13.
Okay, right. So
writing at that point pop songs to begin with, and
who did you want to be?
Well,
that time,
my biggest love in that kind of era, and to an extent still is Queen. I'm a massive Queen fan, but I would never have wanted to have been Freddie because I know I don't have the charisma.
But were you writing similar stuff with
No, the stuff I was writing was incredibly kind of anodyne, bland pop. Stuff that was kind of quite predictable in many ways. But then started getting into writing musical theatre. So actually, bizarre. I mean, this is the arrogance of youth. For my GCSE music composition, I wrote a musical. And a musical based on a short story that I'd written for my English GCSE.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, just complete folly, but still, it was fun. But yeah, so then kind of the arranging side of things, that really kind of took off when I started. Well, when I was at university, and when I was asked to teach singing on the acting course, basically it wasn't a one-to-one kind of vocal tuition thing. It was, here is a room full of 30 actors. They need to be able to hold a tune. So do what you need to do with them to kind of get them to that place. Yeah. And to me at that point, the obvious thing to do was form them into a choir.
Right. Do you remember the first song you tackled with them?
Yeah, I did an arrangement of Deep River, spiritual, which I mean, again, ridiculously ambitious at the time, because I wrote it in 8 parts with 2 soloists, for a bunch of actors who, a good chunk of them had never sung before. But nevertheless, it was just one of those things where you just went, well, I can hear the sounds I want it to make, so I'm going to write them, and then I'm going to try and get them to do it.
Fantastic. So right, that's good. So you're already doing it, and that's interesting that this is something that happened to you. They said, deal with this situation, and then you became a choral director. When did you decide this is something I want to do myself, and became proactive with it and said this is something that I want to do? Are we too early for that question, or is that
no? I think I'd decided that I wanted to be a professional musician about 14, 15.
Okay.
But as to how that could happen, I had no idea. From kind of university time, I thought that my absolute dream job, would be to be running a choir to do rehearsals, to do concerts, to teach, and for that to be a salaried job, where it's not just kind of living hand to mouth. But in my head at that time, that couldn't possibly exist. So, but that was definitely kind of my goal. Again, still whilst I was at university, there was a job was posted up on a notice board to be a rehearsal pianist for a choir that was running kind of semi-locally, and so I thought I'd go for that, just to bring a bit of extra money in, to be honest, at the time. And I walked through the doors of this place, and it was what I didn't realise when I kind of first went for it is that this was what at the time was pretty much the only, I think, national organisation that was doing amateur choirs. It was at the time it was known as the Northern Music and Theatre Company, but it fairly rapidly turned into a company called Sing Live, who had large scale amateur choirs across the UK, and this was in the mid to late 90s. So this is kind of well pre Gareth Malone and Rock Choir and all of those kind of things. So I walked into this rehearsal room, and there were 200 singers there. I sat down at the piano, and it was away we go, and it just blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. So I spent, I think, about 4 or 5 years as a rehearsal pianist for them, and that was in Leeds, but also they had at that point groups in Birmingham and kind of all places across the UK, and so I would often get the chance to go and either at least just go to the concerts that they were doing, and it made me so excited about choral music. But also, I was kind of seeing the process of how to rehearse a choir and things like that from the piano. So that was a real education in how to do that stuff. Plus, they had an in-house arranger who arranged all their music for them, and so I was getting to kind of understand how that process worked in terms of if that's what's on the page, this is what it sounds like in the rehearsal room, and things like that. So that was a real key kind of influence.
Did you get a chance to write for that group while you were there?
Well, not in my first stint there. I had 3 different stints there. I did the first kind of 4 or 5 years, and during that time, I was also doing some freelance work, MDing in the theatre, and some private teaching and things like that. It was really kind of exciting stuff, but also was not bringing in the money to pay the bills. So after the end of one particularly insane week, in which I'd been the MD for a production of a new musical, which had gone really, really well through the week, and then on the Sunday I'd gone down to London to be involved in a production at the Royal Albert Hall with Sing Live, that they were providing the chorus for a concert called The Night of a Thousand Voices. At the Royal Albert Hall, so I was down involved with that on the Sunday, stayed for the after party till the early hours on Sunday morning, drove back up to Yorkshire kind of at 4 in the morning on the Monday morning, ready to go into university where I was still teaching on the Monday morning, dropped in at home literally just to change my clothes and have a shower before I went off to teach, to find a bill that I couldn't pay. And it just made me go, I can't carry on doing this. No. So I actually gave up. I gave up everything, stopped being a musician for about 5 or 6 years, and went to go and work in the corporate sector. Got into data analysis and project management and all those kind of things. Nothing to do with music at all. Didn't play a note on the piano, didn't sing at all for about 5 or 6 years. Then a few things happened at once. Partly I was with my first wife at the time, and our marriage broke up, and I moved to a different part of the country. But then a friend who I'd known from university days, who's a brilliant actress and singer, was doing a one-woman show and phoned me up and said, my pianist's dropped out. It's next week. I know you've not played in ages, but could you just help me out? And I was like, well, it's a friend. I'd be foolish not to just go and help her, wouldn't I? Really, it was 3 nights in a theatre. I could fit it around work. Yeah, I'll go and do that. I walked into the theatre and just went, why did I ever leave?
You got the bug again.
Yeah, and I'd quit my job within 6 months and was back to it. But actually, absolutely. But then that also was going back to. Obviously, then I phoned Sing Live up and said, can I still come and do some work for you? And at that point, they were looking for people to be vocal coaches and to conduct a few of their choirs. So I took over the choir in Sheffield and one in Nottingham, that got me then into conducting again, which was brilliant. But then was not long after that their in-house arranger left, and they offered me the job. So I then started writing the arrangements for everything that they were doing across the UK, and at that point they branched out into America as well. So I was writing things.
That's the start of your library building up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, really exciting stuff.
Fantastic. So how long? When? Give us a timeline. Where are we now? So what's?
Oh, that would have been when I started with doing that kind of chunk at Sing Live. Would have been, maybe 16, 17 years ago. I would think.
That was the third time.
Because I was also because of my kind of background in the corporate world and doing IT related stuff. I was doing some musical work for them for a while, whilst also being their IT manager. So kind of looking after all the computers.
Very useful. So you picked up these different skills as you went along.
Absolutely, yeah. But then that took me through to 2010. 2010 was when I started working for Sing Live, and set up my own choir. So that was the beginning of Bebox.
Never looked back. Fantastic. Tell me a composer or a song that really gets you. Is there one particular song that sort of?
It'd have to be Bohemian Rhapsody.
Would it really? Still?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. In fact, I've just in the last this week actually just finished doing a mix of my choir. I've recorded it for the first time, and it's been a lifetime goal to do that with the choir, and finally got to kind of tick that box in this last week.
Well done. Yes, I've been on the same journey.
Yeah, I know that you've got a great arrangement of it on.
Are you similarly annoyed with the sort of watered down, slightly sort of?
Oh yes, yes.
Without the syncopated chords and all that.
All that stuff, yeah. In fact, I always said, my choir, because they know how much I love Queen. They've been saying to me since we started, we've got to do Bohemian Rhapsody. We've got to do Bohemian Rhapsody, and I've always said we will do it when we can do it justice.
Yes, that's kind of similar with us. I think we took like 3 months on the first page, something. Shelved it for a bit and then came back later.
To be honest, the only thing that's brought me to doing it now is the fact that we're in lockdown and we've not been able to meet physically, because it means that we're doing everything as recordings rather than singing it live. So it means that we can do all the overdubs. So all of the stuff in the operatic section in the middle, we've actually done it with overdubs. Yeah,
we did it. We tried it live. We did it live with a band.
Yeah, which is more than Queen ever did.
I know, exactly, and that's what we said at the concert. We said just out of interest, just to let you know that Queen never did the full thing live. The middle bit,
whenever they did it in concert, just got to that operatic bit in the middle and put the record on.
Went off stage.
Absolutely. Yeah, chance for a costume change.
You've answered a question, because I said, what have you been doing in lockdown? So you part of the answer to that. How have you combated the problem of lockdown? But tell us about the virtual theatre, because I think that's absolutely fantastic. How did that come about?
Thank you.
How did that come about?
Well, it was because when we went into the first lockdown in March last year, and fairly quickly decided that we needed to do something to kind of just keep things rolling along. We at that point, we thought it would only be for a few months, so it wasn't a question of trying to do something new and exciting. It was, let's just keep rolling on with what we're doing, and we were a couple of weeks away from doing a concert at that point. The concert was going to be Bebox does Broadway, so we're doing a whole bunch of musical theatre stuff, so we kind of got into just singing through that music to start off with, and then we did a virtual choir video, our first one, which was our choir signature song, "Lean on Me," which we'd seen a few virtual choir videos before. Big fan of Eric Whittaker, so
Yes.
all of the virtual choir stuff that he'd done prior to that, we'd really kind of enjoyed. But then when we'd done that, and we'd kind of got to the point of going, right, well, we're not going to be able to just keep on working on this Broadway material. We're going to have to kind of move on to some new stuff, because otherwise it will get tedious. So we said, well, we'll just do one final Zoom session where we'll just sing through everything that we've been doing on the Broadway program, and then we'll move on. And that coincided with the launch of the Lean on Me video. So it was a really kind of emotional weekend doing all that stuff. Yeah. And just seeing everybody's faces on Zoom whilst they were singing through this Broadway stuff just kind of made us go, well, we can't just never perform it. That would be an absolute crying shame. So very foolishly, I said, well, let's do another virtual choir video. In fact, let's do more than one. Let's do as many of them as we can do from this program of music, and let's build a virtual theatre for us to do it in. Now, my wife runs the choir with me, and she has an amount of kind of skills in graphic design, but neither of us had ever kind of got into computer animation and all that kind of stuff. And it was something which my wife had kind of done some training in when she was at college, but hadn't touched it since then. And I've got a bit of an interest in visual effects and filmmaking and that kind of thing. It's not something I do at all. I'm interested in it. So yeah, I was aware of this piece of software called Blender, which is basically something which you can create kind of 3D computer models and kind of animate them. So I very rapidly taught myself how to use it. And built a kind of a 3D computer model of a theatre in which we could put the videos from the singers that they'd filmed themselves at home, and create a virtual concert.
Well, Tim, having tantalised us with the vision of your virtual theatre, let's show the viewers a little bit of that. So I'm going to share my screen now. I've got it ready, all lined up.
Fantastic.
Show them a bit of this. Hopefully this is going to work. If I bring that to the front, can you see that all right?
Yeah, that's come through.
Okay, here it is. That's beautiful. Also, wonderful animated faces there, and everyone dressed in blue and perfectly positioned. There's a lot of work.
A labour of love, I tell you.
And I can say you've mixed the sounds. I mean, it's amazing what you can get off people's phones and iPads, isn't it? Really,
absolutely, yeah.
Really,
I mean, we've done. I'm lucky in that I've got a bit of a background in recording engineering and things like that as well. So we've done a few live albums with the choir in the past, and we've always said that the big challenge when kind of trying to record a choir is, particularly if you're doing things to backing track, you want the track to be loud enough in the room that the singers can hear it and sing nicely over it, but you want to record as little of it as possible so that you can kind of mix it in separately afterwards. And ideally, it would be great to have plenty of microphones on the choir so that you can kind of adjust the levels between the sections and things. And of course, recording everything at home means everybody's got their own individual microphone their phone,
Yeah,
and they're doing it with headphones on, so you're not getting any of the sound of the backing
right.
track going into it. It's an ideal situation for mixing.
And the quality's not that bad.
No,
We
it's superb
yeah.
actually.
We
I've been
struggled.
really
We struggled a little bit with our virtual choir things. I think we managed two over the whole year and a half. So
yeah.
it
Well,
wasn't
after doing the Broadway ones, I swore never again.
right. Well, it's very impressive and it's fantastic. And of course, the main thing is to keep people together. And
100%. That was absolutely what
social
was the
side.
whole purpose of what we were doing over the lockdown was. I said right from the beginning, this isn't actually about making music, it's about keeping people together and connected as a community.
Spot on, and people will echo that up and down the country, I'm sure.
Mm.
And well, that's wonderful. Were there any other ways in which you've combated the lockdown musically that you can think of, or is this the virtual?
Yeah, it's been an opportunity really in many ways for us to focus a little bit more on people listening to the sound of their own voices and developing some kind of self-reflection skills in terms of their musicality. We've done a number of workshops on different elements of vocal technique, which I do little bits of that beforehand, but to be able to spend 2-3 hours kind of going through breathing, is something which is a luxury we wouldn't have had before really, and people have really responded to that. This whole process of people recording themselves, we've really kind of built into everything that we're doing now. Even if we're not doing an album or a virtual choir or anything like that, we're just encouraging people to be recording themselves on a regular basis and using that as a learning tool. And in fact, that's something which we're hoping to then kind of carry through back into the rehearsal room when we're back in the room, so that we can record things as we go and immediately play them back, so that you kind of have got that sense of, oh, this is what I tried to do and this is what the end result of it sounded like from the outside point of view.
So then they can hear what they now have to adjust in order to get.
Absolutely, yeah. Because that's always the hard thing when you're in the midst of the choir, isn't it? To actually know what it sounds like out front.
So we're learning new things. That's amazing. And are you looking forward to getting back maybe September? Is that when you're targeting?
No, to be honest, it probably isn't. We've been very kind of on the cautious end of the spectrum, partly because my wife is a transplant recipient, and so we kind of have to be particularly careful with her health. But also, I've got this kind of thing of thinking the last thing I really want to, because I know a lot of other choir leaders have gone through this. What I don't want to do is to kind of start things going kind of a little bit more positive, a little bit more in the room, and then have to pull back from it, and then start again, and have to pull back from it. Because I think that can be so dispiriting for us as choir leaders, as well as for the singers. So no, I've kind of taken the view of we'll be really quite patient. So we may possibly do a couple of like one-off little things just to kind of start building people's confidence back up again in the autumn, but I suspect we probably won't be in a room together until January.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I'm sure your singers appreciate that as well. There'd be nothing worse than to sort of start too early and to and have somebody get ill.
Absolutely, yeah. And I know that things are getting better and better all the time on that. So and believe me, by me saying that, it's no kind of reflection on people that are starting again now. I say all power to you.
Well, we're singing outside, of course. we feel safe, quite safe singing outside.
Absolutely, it feels so much safer.
We just don't have the venue yet, the inside that's big enough to house us.
I think one of the challenges that we have is, we thought about doing stuff outside, but because we are a really big choir, when we get everybody together, it's 300. So when you're spacing people out and things like that, just people wouldn't be able to hear from one side of the choir to the other.
Well, we're tremendously proud and privileged to have you on board ChoirCommunity, Tim. It's great to have you on. Tell us one of your new arrangements that's going to go on a ChoirCommunity that people can go and look at and listen to that you're particularly proud of.
Yeah, I'd love to. Even though it is currently, of course, pretty much the height of summer, I'm going to talk about a Christmas one because, us choir directors.
Getting their Christmas stuff together already.
Exactly, yeah. People are always thinking about Christmas at this point of the year, aren't they? It drives people insane, but it happens. So yeah, I've got a medley of Christmas songs, which is kind of quite calm and reflective. I've done a number of medleys of Christmas songs over the years, and most of them have been kind of quite rambunctious and kind of over the top. But this one is very, very calm. It's got things like The Holly and the Ivy and What Child Is This and things like that. And it's really just quite still and serene, and it's it's whenever we've done it with the choir, it has gone down absolute treat. People always are kind of wanting to do more of that. And a few other choir leaders I know who've heard it a little. We did the choir leaders choir thing in 2019. We did one of those. We did this piece with them, and a number of other people were saying, "I can't. I'd love to be able to do this with my choir," and now they can.
Well, I think I was busy that day. I was really hoping to be involved, and then we had this thing. So one day, I'd love to come and be in your choir leaders choir, Tim.
It would be brilliant. I can't wait to get back to it.
Yeah, and so everyone, go and check out Tim's arrangements. You won't regret it. And we'll maybe see you another year. Let's have another interview in a few months' time and see how you're getting on.
Marvelous. It'd be great to catch up.
All right, Tim. Thanks for coming along. We'll see you soon. All the best. Bye.